Hi, everybody, and welcome to grading every single MLB team's 2026 draft haul. We're going to go basically pick by pick, break down what every team did this year in the draft, and at the end, we'll rank all of them in a good old letter scale. All right, we're not going to wait too long. We've got a lot to get into, so let's start right away. So what we've got right here is the MLB Draft Tracker, super useful thing that I'm sure a lot of you guys were watching this past weekend. And right here, we're just going to filter by teams, look at what's going on, and I'll give you some analysis. So we're going to start out with the Arizona Diamondbacks, who took Ryder Helfrich at 15. I expected Ryder Helfrich to be gone by probably the 10th pick. So this is pretty good value here. Blake Bryant, let me just explain, first of all, these columns right here, what pick they got selected at and what the MLB pipeline rank is. I don't work for MLB pipeline. They do great work. It's just not exactly how I would do it. I work for Overslot with the incredible Joe Doyle. I have my own rankings, though. They're more close to the Overslot rankings than MLB pipeline rankings for the most part. So I'll kind of tell you what I actually think of these picks, not just what MLB pipeline thinks. So Blake Bryant went here at 31. The rank is 65. I think he's better than that. I think the slot's actually going to be pretty close to the full pick value. This would suggest it might be under slot. Not so sure about that. Carson Kearse at Georgia Tech, one of the most underrated players in this draft. He had a lot of helium late at 53. I think that's the perfect spot for him. Probably going to play second base. Might be able to play some shortstop, but I think he's a second baseman at the next level. So you get a really good college catcher in Ryder Helfrich, who hits the ball incredibly hard. Minor whiff concerns, but I'm pretty comfortable with him, and he's an incredible defensive catcher. Carson Kearse here, a good second baseman. You get a high upside prep pitcher from Georgia. 3 great picks to start this thing out. Then we start going down the board, and I'm not as sold on maybe what the Diamondbacks did later in the draft. LJ Mercurius is a really fun pick from Oklahoma. I think 148 is really good value on him. There's definitely some starting pitcher upside there. As I continue to go down, I like Cody Boschel a little bit, a first base high school prospect. You don't normally see those guys get drafted a whole lot, but really nice lefty swing, has some impact to him. As we go down the board, like Jack Spaniers, kind of cool. Joseph Jasso, interesting. Saw a couple of his games at Fullerton. I'm just not seeing like the picks down the board that get me super excited. Like there aren't any true like shots taken in this draft is what I'm trying to say. It's a very good draft from these first 3 picks. Braden Dowd, yeah, not my cup of tea. Is probably going to come in under slot here in the 3rd round, probably to pay for someone like LJ or even Michael Worley. I'm just not sold. Carson Turnquist is another good shout from Cal Poly. A lot of Cal Poly players got drafted today. Man, they killed day 2 of this draft. But for the Arizona Cardinals, I think what I'm going to do is give them just a solid B. It's not a bad grade at all. And I probably should have prefaced this whole video by saying we're not going to know how this draft goes for maybe 5 years, right? Once these players actually make it to the MLB, we'll know how this draft actually went. I'm just saying how I think each team maneuvered the draft. This is super subjective. Every team thinks that they killed this draft. They did what they wanted to do. This is just one man's opinion. Let's move on here to the Athletics. Sacramento Athletics, Vegas Athletics, Oakland, not anymore, I suppose. Man, the Athletics did some really fun things in this draft. They got Drew Burress, who by all accounts should have been a top 5 pick based on talent, and they just took him. He fell to 8, and they were there to pick him up. You know, Zion Rose going at 6 might be a big part of that. The prep slide was interesting as well. We'll get to all that later. We knew Eric Booth Jr. was going to go to the Orioles, so Drew Burress here falls to the A's. This is an incredible pick. And then Mason Edwards, a guy who I thought could have gone in the top 20, falls all the way to 47. There's a reason for it, and we'll talk about it. But really just picking up some great value here. So what the A's definitely did in drafting, and what they've been doing for a couple of years now, is they just take the really good college players that slide. As you can see here, look at all of these schools these players went to with their first 6 picks, their first 7 picks, actually. Miami, Georgia Tech, UCLA, North Carolina State, Arkansas. These are all Power 4 schools. They're big conference performers. They love guys who perform at the highest levels of college baseball. They're going to be able to insert most of these guys straight into high A, maybe double A for Drew Burress or Mason Edwards, and let them cook right off the bat. When we talk about a guy like Mason Edwards, he had the most strikeouts in college baseball this year. He was absolutely incredible, maybe the best pitcher in college baseball, hands down. Here's the problem: is this stuff doesn't really pop on these MLB models. A lot of the draft is driven by models at this point. How's this guy going to perform in the MLB? I think what we got here was scouts telling us and teams telling us that Mason Edwards is a really good college performer. They don't think the stuff is going to play as well, probably in the upper minors of the MLB. So we're going to need Mason Edwards to add a couple of miles per hour to his fastball and prove all of them wrong, because I'm a big fan. I thought Mason Edwards was definitely going to be a top 30 pick in this class. When we look at Gabe Gackle here, 73 is the perfect spot for him, in my opinion. This is right around where I had him on my personal draft board. Gackle had a really interesting year. Heading into this season, he was the 4th-ranked pitcher on our board at overslot. We thought he wasn't that far off from Jackson Flora, for being honest. Gabe Gackle did not have a great season. The fastball was really good. He just couldn't get out of his own way. There were a lot of blow-up endings in there. Gackle has an incredible fastball. He's short with some really fun release traits. I like his arsenal. This is a guy who could come in and be a really good reliever at the worst. They're going to let him start for a while. Gabe Gackle's a name to circle as someone who had a bad 2026, but could project to be a lot better moving forward with some outlier stuff. Jacob Dudon from North Carolina State is a guy who got hurt. Really, really strong stuff. We saw his name start to surge toward the end once people really took a deep dive into the pitch metrics. This is a guy who, despite, he's going to have a late start to pro ball, has all the stuff to be a real steal in this draft. Roman Martin was the 3rd baseman at UCLA this year. He could have played short, but a guy named Brock Chalowski was at shortstop for the Bruins. Roman Martin, another guy, thought he could go in the top 100 picks, falls to 111. They pick him up. Just another great pick, big conference performer. Alex Hernandez, same thing. Up and down year at Georgia Tech, he hits pretty well. Alex Sosa from Miami, the bashing catcher. That's a new one for me. The guy hits the ball really hard. Looking down the board, I think the A's didn't extract as much value deep as they maybe could have. They definitely had to spend some money at the top here. These first 5 rounds could not have been cheap. As we look down the board, maybe a name that I would point out to is like Evan Blanco from Tennessee. Interesting senior pick there. Nathan Aceves from UC Santa Barbara, Jackson Flores School. One of the better pitchers there. Has some fun stuff under the hood that I think the A's probably like there. Wonder if they spent a little bit of money too at 12. Definitely a higher ranked player than maybe where he ended up landing suggests. As far as the A's go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them an A. One of the higher grades of this whole exercise. I just think that they got so much talent. Drew Burress is a guy. I had him at 4 or 5 in my personal rankings, goes 8. Edwards, top 30 guy, goes 47. Gabe Gackle, top 70 guy, goes 73. Dudon, top 70 guy for sure, goes 83. Roman Martin, top 100 guy, goes 111. I don't know how else you can argue with that. They picked up value at almost every single meaningful spot in this draft. The Atlanta Braves, all right. AJ Gracia, kind of a surprise here at 9, probably saved a bit of money, definitely saved a bit of money. And then they also saved some money with Carter Beck. Carter Beck's a really fun pick. Indiana State, nobody saw him coming in the first round. Everyone was like, this guy's going to be an awesome comp round or second round pick. We had him right around 50 at overslot. So did I on my personal big board. This guy can do a little bit of everything, kind of a metric darling. Obviously, you have to question the competition at Indiana State. But this is a true center fielder who's going to be really, really good, and you save some money on him. And they had to save money with these first 2 picks to get 2 of the most exciting prep pitchers in the draft. You know that the Atlanta Braves love prep pitching, and Caden McCarthy is one of the most interesting ones in the class. Cold weather arm from Vermont. Have you ever heard of a baseball player coming from Vermont? Probably not. That's because they don't come from there. Caden McCarthy is one of the first to be drafted from Vermont in a while, and one of the first to be drafted highly in a very long time. So shout out Vermont. Jensen Hirschkorn. Man, this is one of my favorite picks in the draft. At 84, I think you get good value. I think that this was maybe a little late for Hirschkorn. They could have floated him down with some money. This pick is going to cost a ton. A lot of your savings from Gracia and Beck are going to Hirschkorn and then also McCarthy. The deal with Hirschkorn is he absolutely dominated area code games last year. 9 batters, 9 strikeouts. That's something that sticks with scouts. It's hard to forget, the 6'7" righty who throws, mid-upper 90s in Jensen Hirschkorn in that dominant performance. So cool to see him go off the board here. This is a guy who's going to be a really interesting prospect. It'll be interesting how fast he rises. I'll put it that way. Will Libbert is a favorite of some. Good lefty from Ole Miss. Going down the board, one of my favorite picks in the whole draft here, Jack Brenner. I was starting to get worried that Brenner wasn't going to get drafted when he was still available in the 7th, but that he somehow got him, and I'm wondering how they're going to pay all of these guys. Grolkowski is not going to be cheap. That's a prep pitcher in the 6th. And then Jack Brenner, a prep bat in the 7th. I say bat because I'm not sure if he's going to be a catcher or not. This is a guy who's kind of played all around the place. He can play a little bit of infield. He could probably play some outfield. From Wisconsin, another cold weather bat. The interesting thing about Jack Brenner is he's maybe one of the best bat to ball prep hitters in this whole draft. The guy does not swing and miss. And there's reason to believe that there's going to be at least average power, maybe above average power at some point. So we're talking about the guy like this. There's obviously some adjustments to be made with the swing, selling out for contact, yada, yada, yada. Brenner's one of those guys who's going to succeed really early on in the minor leagues. Super bullish on him. Great under the hood data. I've been writing about him for the past year. Ryan Barker in a similar, but I don't know how they're going to be able to sign all of these guys. And I wonder if one of them does go unsigned and end up on campus. Ryan Barker's not going to be cheap. Prep third baseman from Arizona. And then I want to bring up Cole Dorland from British Columbia. This is a guy who I knew a little bit about coming into the class. Did not think he was going to get drafted, but ended up being selected here in the 13th. Atlanta notably does like their prospects from British Columbia. So really interested to see what he does. Plenty of clay there. I think that's it for the Braves. Some other interesting picks down the board, but let's move on. My grade for the Braves, though, I'm going to give them an A-. All right, I think it was really good. I like Grossi. I like Beck a lot. Two prep arms, really cool. I think they could have done more down the board. I'm not sold on Grossi and Beck being great values where they're selected. We'll have to see how much money they end up saving. And they took some risk with two prep pitchers in here, but I'm a big fan of what they did overall. Now on to the Baltimore Orioles, who had Eric Booth Jr. fall into their lap. We knew that this was going to be the floor for EJ Booth Jr., and it ended up being the actual selection. Surprised he made it this far. This was my fourth ranked player in the draft, ahead of Jackson Flora, and he ends up going at 7. One of the most dynamic players in this class, sky high ceiling, great defender, left-handed swing that could use a little bit of work, but plays really well as is. Can't say enough good things. This is just picking up great value at 7. Ty Head is an interesting option. This is someone who could have gone as high as maybe 14 is what we were hearing. He had suitors up and down the first round as an underslot option. Didn't end up happening. He made it all the way to 46, which I was pretty surprised by. This is a guy who's going to play a good center field and make a ton of contact. Not a whole lot of power in the profile. Pretty good swing decisions. He's going to hit the ball. Future 300 hitter Ty Head, be ready. Kevin Roberts Jr. is a big name in this draft class for a lot of different reasons. This is someone who had first-round buzz at points throughout this cycle, struggled at times this spring, not completely sold that he's going to make enough contact to warrant such a high selection. I think 110 is right around the range. It's a nice upside swing. You already took one on Booth. I guess you take another one on Roberts Jr., but Head is a pretty secure option. Not the biggest Dominic Vogel fan out of Kansas, so not going to comment too much on him. They took him early. It's probably under slot. We're all good there. Zane Adams, lefty from Alabama, great pick. Ryan Peach from Xavier, really fun right-handed pitcher. Really good fastball at the top of the zone with a curveball that has some bite to it. Peach, look out for maybe a future reliever, but I like him starting early for the Baltimore Orioles. Really fun player. As we continue to go down the board, Braden Fry was someone I heard from a couple different people was a really fun selection. I don't know a whole lot about him, but just wanted to shout that out. And then Gunnar Garrison as well. So some people think that the Orioles might have done well with some of these high school players down the board. We'll have to see how many they actually end up signing. This is a lot of prep players at the back of a draft, probably some insurance moves there. But yeah, Ryan Peach, look out for him. EJ Booth Jr., incredible. So because of that, I'll give the Orioles a B. Similar to some of these other teams that already put in B, like the Diamondbacks. I like what they did. I'm not in love with it. Two really good players at the top. Down the board, I'm not so sure. It's going to be a big signing bonus for Kevin Roberts Jr. We'll see, but good value at the top. And now we get to the Boston Red Sox, who did maybe the most surprising thing on day one by taking Jake Schaffner at 20. Jake Schaffner is a guy that at overslot we liked a lot, around a top 50 prospect for us. We thought he'd be a really good underslot option, but honestly, I thought that this was the Ty Head spot. I didn't hear a whole lot about Jake Schaffner going too early. In my personal mock, I had him at 25 to the Milwaukee Brewers, and I thought that was really high in its own right. He went even higher. You're going to save a bunch of money here. He's going to come in at 50% or less. So they were able to maneuver down the board and get some other players that they like. Going so far underslot at your first pick, though, comes with risk because it's hard to float down a bunch of talent to later in the draft. Guys that you want to take are going to get picked. I'm just not so sure that that is how I would prioritize my bonus pool money is by going way under slot with my first pick. I'm not a big Owen Hole fan. He's gotten better every single year in North Carolina. He's a good player. He's pretty metrically sound. I just don't I just don't think it's sexy, which is kind of a dumb way to do all of this, but I got to trust my gut here. Not a huge fan of Owen Hole. I don't think he does anything very good. Jace Matazinski out of Wisconsin, shortstop. They're going to have to pay a lot for this. I'm not a huge fan of the player. I think this is right around the range he should get selected. I just wouldn't blow all of my savings for a guy like Matazinski, who I'm not completely sold on. Brett Landman, fun name, fun pitcher from Abilene Christian, going down the board. This is where things start to get really interesting. Martin Schillar and Caleb Lefevre. All right, these are the two guys who they're going to spend a lot of their bonus pool savings on. Schillar is a guy who some people think is a first-round pick. Martin Schillar is not a first-round pick, in my opinion. All right, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. This is a guy who I had right around 100. I wanted to remove him from my top 100, but I didn't because he's such a good athlete, and you have to hedge yourself sometimes. The swing is too much for me. It's too many moving pieces. It's an aggressive toe tap. There's timing issues everywhere. As you can see, Pipeline doesn't like him that much at 175. That's an aggressive ranking. This is a guy who's going to get millions of dollars from the Boston Red Sox. I'm not convinced that this is a good pick at all. So when you're saying you take Jake Schaffner to save money for Jace Matazinski and Martin Schillar, I'm not interested in that. Those are two players that I just don't have high enough on my boards to warrant taking a talent like Schaffner 30 picks before he should probably be taken. And then Caleb Lefevre, I do like, is the only thing. So they get slight bonus points for that. Mason Lay, another good pick. Jace Evangelista is a guy who was at University of Washington for a little bit. Good pitcher. And then Josh Volmerding from Cal Poly. I really like him. I think that there's some funky release traits. I think he could be a good reliever, and we'll see what the ceiling is, though. So for the Boston Red Sox, this is going to be my lowest grade yet. I'm going to go B- for the Boston Red Sox. I just don't like the overall strategy of taking Schaffner and then floating down Schillar to the 9th and taking Jace Matazinski. It's just not my cup of tea. You know, Schaffner's a great player. Schaffner's going to be a big leaguer. He's really good. I just don't think this is how I would have navigated the board. All right, and now the Chicago Cubs had a really interesting draft. Cade Townsend at 23, fantastic selection. Lots of suitors in the 20s. Then Caden Sorrell falling all the way to 62. This is a guy who I had in my top 50. I thought there's a chance he went to the Mets in the first round at 27. He ends up going at 62. Really high upside. This guy can play a great center field. He's going to steal bases. He's going to hit for power. It's just a question of, is he going to whiff too much? Struck out a bunch this year at College Station. We will see if the hit tool can tick up to even a 40. This guy's going to be a really valuable big leaguer. Miles Bailey hits the shit out of the ball. Probably the best exit velocities of anyone in this class, if I'm not mistaken. At 75, that's a fun risk to take. Not sure if he's going to hit enough. You know, this is a guy who's in the 5th percentile of most whiff and chase stats and stuff like that. For whiff, I know that Miles Bailey is one of the worst players in college baseball in that regard. So it's a big trade-off you got to take, but it's a shot. Why not? Carson Jasa, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the name. I've heard it both ways. Spins the ball really well. Fun pick at 98. That's right around where I had him on my board. Isaac Morton is a fun pitcher from Minnesota. Cole Triba at UC Santa Barbara had a rough year, but has all the tools to be a really good pitcher. Chase Meyer got removed from the West Virginia baseball team this year. He was in the portal. This is a really good reliever, though, regardless. And Luke Allwood from Seattle University, kind of a fun pick there, was not on my radar. Griffin Nace from Cal Poly was one of their best pitchers this year. Once again, this Cal Poly team was fantastic and made out like bandits in the draft. The Cubs overall did some really fun things. I would put them as an A- because they got Townsend, they got Sorrell for value. Miles Bailey's a fun shot. I really like Jasa, and there's a couple players down the board that I could see popping off in the future. So A- for the Cubs. Let's talk about the Chicago White Sox, who had the number 1 pick, huge bonus pool, biggest ever, Rock Chalowski at 1. Seeing his reaction video, seeing his conversations about wanting to be a White Sox so bad, man, I'm so excited to watch him play. That's going to be a slam dunk pick, and I think it's the right move for the White Sox. I was torn between Von Lackey and Rock Chalowski as my number 1 player in the draft. Rock Chalowski makes a lot of sense here. Going to be one of the best defenders at shortstop coming out of the draft that we've seen in a while. He's going to hit really well. He's going to hit for power. If he keeps pulling the ball in the air a little bit more, good things are going to happen. Rock Chalowski is just going to be a really quality big leaguer for a long time. Landon Tomei is a bloodline pick, obviously the son of Jim Tomei, who played for the White Sox. This pick isn't going to break the bank. It's fun. Tomei had a lot of suitors, before pick 41, which is why they traded for this pick. With that being said, Tomei was more like 60th on my personal big board. I think this is a little early for him. The second base prospect, I'm just not sold. But with the bloodline factor, it's a good pick. Cole Prosek, I like a lot more than Landon Tomei. He can play a little bit of catcher. They announced him as a second baseman, kind of boring. Prosek can hit and defend. It's going to be fun to see what he does. Joey Volchko has some of the nastiest stuff in the draft. His main fastball is a demon cutter. He throws really fun breaking balls. Doesn't throw a whole lot of strikes. Transferred from Stanford to Georgia this past year and got quite a bit better. We'll see. That's a big upside swing on a guy who could be a unique starting pitcher in the league. Worst case, you have a dominant reliever. Eric Segura, perfect blend of ground ball rate and strikeouts. This guy keeps the ball on the ground, throws very hard, and is a workhorse who's going to collect enough punchies to be like an ideal number 5 starting pitcher in a rotation. Cal Scolari from Oregon throws really hard. The breaking ball shapes could use a step forward. They're going to sign him for a little bit over slide here. This is a guy that I had right around 100 on my board, getting him at 137. That's awesome. Alex Weingartner, one of the better prep outfielders in this kind of tier 2 of prep outfielders. I'm trying to figure out where the White Sox got all this money from. We'll see. They saved a little bit on Cholowski. They probably saved a little bit in here. Alex Weingartner is going to be a big, expensive buy, but he will be worth it. That's a really fun pick. As you can see down the board, they didn't have as many shots because of the lack of money, but they got a couple in. Kyle Castile, surprised. Not sure how they're going to get him. We'll see. Braden Holcomb, good outfielder. Could have had a better year in 2026, but he's got all the tools. Grayson Fitzwater is a data darling. Virginia Military Institute, not playing the greatest competition, but really good. Isaac Yeager, transferred from Washington to Oregon State. Incredible fastball slider combination. He's going to be a great reliever. Cameron Johnson out of Oklahoma. As you can see, Pipeline has this as value. I tend to agree. Good left-handed pitcher. Darren Horn out of Coastal Carolina, another really good reliever. They got some really fun relief pitching options here in Yeager and Horn. Down the board, Connor Fennell. This is an insurance move in case they can't sign everyone. Knowing how they're probably going to operate, there's going to be one of these guys like a Castile, probably not Burdett, maybe Weingartner, I guess, if things went really wrong. Most likely one of these prep guys on day 2 won't sign, and Connor Fennell might be open there. I don't think he's announced that he's going back to Vanderbilt yet. Kind of surprised he didn't get drafted. I thought he'd go somewhere in the 5th or 6th round at least, but Fennell falls here to the 20th round as insurance. Overall, the White Sox absolutely killed this draft. I want to give them an A+, but I'm going to reserve that for just one team. So I'm going to give them an A as a top 3 favorite draft class of mine. All right, Cincinnati Reds, Justin LeBron. A lot of people have a lot of opinions about this pick. I think this is awesome. Good value at 18. This is a guy who's been talked about as a top 5 player maybe in this draft before a poor spring season. He whiffs a ton. The defense took a little step back in game this year, but it projects to be really good in the future, and he's going to hit bombs. If he can hit 200, he's going to be a very valuable player for his defense and his home runs. Eric Becker going at 58 really surprised me. I thought Eric Becker would be really popular at the back end of the first round or in the comp rounds. He does everything really well. Granted, he was injured for part of this year, so teams didn't see as much as maybe they wanted to. This is just a really balanced player. Sure, there's a little bit of swing and miss, but I'm a big Eric Becker fan. Sweet left-handed swing. We'll see what happens here. I think this is a steal. Mulavai Lavu, one of the safest players in this draft, one of the best first base defenders we've got in this class, maybe the best. He hits a bunch. You guys have probably watched some UCLA baseball this year. You know about Moo. He's going to be a really good player, and he's going to rise so fast. I think Joe said that he might be the first player to reach the big leagues out of this whole draft class. I tend to agree. It's that good. Tyner Horn out of Nebraska is going to save a little bit of money. Still a good pitcher. Ethan Norby has some great breaking balls. He's super undersized. He drops his slot sometimes in a sweeper. There's enough there. Probably a really good big league lefty reliever. There's a chance he starts, though. Dylan Bowen. That's going to be a little bit expensive down the board. Duncan Marson, one of my favorite college pitchers. The Reds just took a lot of really fun names with their first 7 picks here. They just did a great job. Not a whole lot of money down the board. Connor Griffin throws 100 out of Binghamton, so that's always fun. Calvin Prosky, I really like out of UC Santa Barbara. Looked pretty good at the combine. Kenny Ishikawa out of Georgia. He's a 2-way player. He was going to be more of a pitching prospect this year. He didn't pitch a whole lot after a foot injury this year. he makes a ton of contact. I really like the offensive profile. I would give him a chance on both sides of the ball. I think there's enough upside with the bat that he could maybe do something in this system. So I hope that he signs, first of all, with the Reds. If he goes back to Georgia, totally fine with me too. But that's just a fun pickup. Pretty good exit velocities too for a contact first guy. Matt Ponatoski down here, the Kentucky commit, two-way athlete, plays quarterback as well. This is just an insurance move. I don't think they're going to be able to sign him. Overall, the Cincinnati Reds did some really fun stuff. I'm going to give them an A-. I don't know if I want to be the team that drafts Justin LeBron 1, so I don't know if I can give this an A. Eric Becker's great. Mulavilavu's great. Kind of safe. They took a couple shots down the board. Nothing crazy, though, in my opinion, but overall just like really good value. And now the Cleveland Guardians, who took Liam Peterson at 19. It's a fine pick. Peterson probably belonged here. I'm not sold that he's the second best starting pitcher in this class like others might think. I think that's a conversation for another time. Liam Peterson has the best stuff in this class. He just has a really hard time throwing strikes and being consistent on the mound. It's going to be a bit of a project, but it's suffocating stuff if it all works out. Logan Schmidt, I'm neither here nor there on. I think this is the right range for him. Early on, people thought he'd be like a top 30 pick in this class. He started sliding down boards. It doesn't excite me as much as some of these other prep pitchers. Like I would rather have the two guys that Atlanta took, McCarthy and Hirschkorn, than Logan Schmidt, which might be a hot take, but Trey Broussard is a fine pick at 95. Cade Lewis, same thing. Third base profile at 123. Lucas Moore out of Louisville slid a bunch this year. 155. I think that's fine. You hope that he can regain some of his confidence. LeChance, the Oklahoma catcher from Canada. I like him quite a bit. Selfishly thought he was going to go to the Blue Jays because Canada, but oh well. Savion Sims is a big pitcher, 6'8". Right up the Guardians' alley. Similarly in Peterson, big 6'5" pitcher. Savion Sims is a really fun pick. Cool if they were able to take a shot on a prep pitcher in this class. Going down the board, I don't really like very many of these players. I think Ben Cleary is the only one who I'm remotely kind of interested in from Santa Clara. Good shortstop out there. Other than that, I'm not so sure. This is going to be kind of an aggressive ranking. I'm putting the Guardians toward the bottom at B-. I just wouldn't have taken Liam Peterson at 19. I think that there are other better pitchers available. Logan Schmidt and Savion Sims for prep pitchers are like good shots, but they're just not the shots I would have taken. I'm not enamored by any of these college bats in here. Like Ben Cleary isn't enough to change his grade. I'm going to put them toward the bottom at B-. And now we get here to the Colorado Rockies, who had a really interesting draft, kind of a new regime over there. And they totally switched up from what they used to do. They took a lot of college players early on, which I absolutely love. Let's just stabilize this farm system a little bit. Tyler Bell fell to them at 8. Awesome pick. I think Tyler Bell's going to be a really good big leaguer. I don't think the ceiling's that high, but I think the floor is pretty high. Daniel Jackson, the Golden Spikes winner, is going to play so well at Coors Park. This guy is going to hit a ton of home runs. We'll see if he can stick behind the plate. The catching defense has been put into question at times. Really like the profile. Is a great fit for the Rockies. Logan Redmond is kind of a confusing pick since he's so fastball dominant toward the top of the zone. That's not going to play as well as at Coors. But he's one of the better pitchers in this draft. This is a guy who was in the mix from 15 to 40, and he got taken at the back end of that to Colorado here. Really good pitcher. We'll see how it works out at Coors. Jack Natili is one of my favorite catchers in this draft. If Daniel Jackson doesn't stick a catcher, this might be the future catcher for the Colorado Rockies. Jack Natili does everything that you want from a modern catcher. Good enough defender, hits for power. He has some whiff concerns. That's fine. We've seen it work. Hunter Goodman is a perfect example of that on the Rockies. Going down the board even further, Tanner Sagasby is what I want to say. It's Sagasby. I'm not sure to pronounce it. This guy's been on my radar all year long. This is an old pitcher who gets to some crazy shapes, has some of the best underlying data in the class. This is a reliever that can conquer Coors, in my opinion. Lorenzo Carrier from Pittsburgh. It might be Carrier. I don't really remember. Hit a bunch of home runs this year at Pitt. Good outfielder. Why not, if you're the Rockies, take the guy with a bunch of power and swing and miss concerns? It's fine. Blake Bowen is not going to get signed. This is an insurance pick if one of these guys doesn't sign. But by all means, Rockies had a pretty complete class here. For grade, I think I'm going to give them an A-. I really like Natili. Jackson Bell's a great pick. Redmond doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's good value here. I like a couple of guys down the board. So Colorado Rockies, good job. Don't normally expect to say that the Rockies killed the draft. I think they did a really, really fine job here. Moving on to the Detroit Tigers. Cameron Flukie at 22. They go away from the prep hitter and they take Cameron Flukie here. One of the best pitchers in this draft, might be the second best pitcher in this draft to some, maybe me. I don't really remember where I had all these guys ranked. All these pitchers were pretty the same to me. Flukie offers different release traits and a fastball curveball combination that should play up in the minor leagues. Tyson LeBlanc, really good shortstop, really good underlying data from Kansas, former JUCO transfer. Evan Dempsey was a two-way player at Florida Gulf Coast, one of the best two-way players in the nation. He's going to be a really high upside pitching prospect for Detroit to develop. So you got Flukie and you got Dempsey here. Two really good shots in the pitching department. Here's where things start to get really interesting. I love their 6th and 7th round selections in Maddox Maloney and Brady Ballinger. Maddox Maloney was a guy who I thought could maybe be a top 15 pick earlier in this year. He couldn't hit at all this season. Hit like 230 at Oregon. He plays really good shortstop defense. This is a guy who could win a Gold Glove. He could win a Gold Glove, honestly. Like, I don't know what else to say. The season was really bad with the bat, but there's a lot of reasons to expect positive regression. The BABIP was really low. Some things just didn't go his way. A lot of draft pressure on Maloney being a first-round talent. Tigers did a great job of extracting value here at 6. Brady Ballinger, in a similar realm, was a guy I could have seen going in the first round earlier this year. He had batted ball data that reminded me of like a toned-down Nick Kurtz earlier in this year. It was all red on his overslot player page. And then he really struggled this year. I think he was injured for most of it. This is a good shot. This is one of those first basemen that if everything goes right, he can do everything really well with the bat. Going down the board a little bit, there weren't a whole lot of guys I thought were super interesting. Michael Lane out of Delaware State, super small school arm. How about Tyler West from Salt Lake City Community College? He's a burner, committed to Texas A&M, I believe. This guy runs really well, hit almost 400 this year in a tough JUCO conference. Really excited to see what they do with Tyler West. Guy who can play some really good center field. The Tigers did a lot of fun things here. I like how they extracted value down the board, took some shots with some of these college guys who had tough 2026 seasons, and they got Flukie, LeBlanc, and Dempsey. It's a great start to a draft. Because of that, I'm going to give the Tigers a solid A grade, probably a top 10 draft class from my view. And here are the Houston Astros, who took Logan Hughes at 17. Logan Hughes was very much so worth this pick. Some people thought he'd be there at 28 and would even mock him at 28. This is perfect. I think taking Justin LeBron at 17 could have been a slippery slope, not super safe for a team that could use a little bit of stability within their farm. Logan Hughes is going to play a bad outfield, but he's going to hit and hit and hit. This might be the best hit tool power combination in the whole draft right here, coming out of Texas Tech with a sweet lefty swing. Jack Raydell, one of my favorite players in this draft. At 28, I think that's a perfect spot for him. Thought he could have gone at 24 of the Seattle Mariners. Goes at 28. This is perfect. This is right around where I had him ranked as well. Pipeline's a little bit off for me here. I think that these were fantastic picks. Raydell's a guy who could use a little bit of improvements with the fastball, has a great slider, big frame. He's got a little bit of work to do, but has all the traits of like a perfect middle of the rotation starter. Wes Mendez, in kind of a similar way to Raydell, good middle to back end starter from the left side. Keon Johnson's going to be expensive. Really fun prep. Shortstop Cam Durnan is someone who'd been undervalued this whole draft cycle, out of Missouri. Played in the SEC, didn't play for a good team, but he performed all year long. Good underlying data as well. Bo Peterson, this is going to cost a lot of money too. Infielder, big body, hits the ball really hard. You hope that the Astros save some money with these first 3 picks, because Keon Johnson, Bo Peterson will not be cheap. Gavin Eddy, great pitcher from California. I love that pick. Early underslot option. Going down the board, there's a couple guys that are interesting. Jack Beck, another high school shortstop. We'll be interested to see if they could sign him. Owen Nowak from Middle Tennessee State absolutely dominated there this year. One of 3 Middle Tennessee State players to get drafted this year. Down the board, Ben Tryon's a guy who I like the underlying data from DBU. They always have some really fun names in like the 10 to 20s. Ben Tryon, keep an eye on him. James Tronstein is not going to sign by all accounts unless one of these deals falls through at the front. That's just an early insurance pick of the Harvard Westlake shortstop. I really liked what the Astros did, guys. I'm going to give them an A as well. I think this is one of the better drafts, maybe top 5 draft. Logan Hughes is so safe. Raydell's a nice upside play who's going to just be a really good major leaguer. They got some really fun prep talent down the board while mixing in guys like Cam Durnan, who should have gone earlier. All right, here we are with the Kansas City Royals. This was the biggest surprise of the draft for me. Zion Rose at 6. We heard rumblings that Zion Rose could go pretty early. I thought maybe 11 to the Nationals. I did not see him going off the board at 6. I thought this was EJ Booth Jr. all day long, but they go for Zion Rose, who's one of the best plate skill sets of any college hitter in this class. Go to overslot.com and subscribe and go read Joe Doyle's article on Zion Rose and what he can do to really make this pick a slam dunk, because there's quite a few people in the industry that are pretty excited about Zion Rose. Taylor Rabe was one of my favorite pitchers in this class. There was a ton of strikes. Ole Miss, he's a young pitcher, 6'5", 200 pounds, really, really good pitcher from Mississippi. Jack Slightum had a bunch of helium heading into this draft class. We thought he might even be able to go in the first round. One of those cold weather arms, has a really nice sweeper that he spins pretty well, good fastball shape. Slightum, that's a great shot, man. If you're going to save some money on Zion Rose, Taylor Rabe, Jack Slightum, and Max Yell are all great pitchers to pick up to bolster a farm. Max Yell out of West Virginia, that's college. Going down the board a little bit, you have a good pro in Dylan Vigue out of Georgia. Good right-handed pitcher. He's going to fit right in and provide some stability to this draft class. Grant Fontenot out of LSU, that's a good shot. I don't hate it. Good, probably reliever at the next level. Camden Johnson, can't forget him, shortstop out of Oklahoma. This is a good value pick. They definitely use some savings from Rose on a guy like him. Same with Ethan McIlvain out of Arkansas, the pitcher. I'm a big fan, honestly, of what the Royals did here. I don't think you can put them too high because Zion Rose has a ways to go to earn this pick. I know you're going to get him for cheaper, but they could have taken a guy like Drew Burress or EJ Booth Jr. They instead decided to go with Zion Rose. I'm going to give the Royals an A- for this draft class. It might be higher than a lot of people would go, but Zion Rose can make this thing work. And they use those savings to take really calculated shots down the board. That was a pretty good draft. We have the Los Angeles Angels here, who completely went away from what they've been known to do in the past, which is take college hitters that are going to be able to play in the major leagues in 6 months. Instead, they went with one of the youngest players in this class, Jared Grindlinger, who is a two-way player, maybe announced as an outfielder here. He's probably a better outfielder than a pitcher, but this is a guy who can throw them into the mid-90s from the left side on the bump. The Angels should know this, if anyone. He could be a two-way player. There's so much value in that. Why not give him a chance? He's only 17 years old. Really fun pick there. Great spot at 12, right around where I had him. Jaron Advincula from Georgia Tech makes a ton of contact. I'm not sold that 45 is a great spot for him. I thought maybe third round value on Advincula, but he's the classic Angels player. He's going to be in the big leagues pretty soon. Play second base. Gavin Grahovac from Texas A&M should probably stick at third base. Could switch over to first base if needed. Some of the best power in this whole class. He's going to hit bombs at Angel Stadium. Rylan Lujo is a really good pick as well. Pretty well-rounded outfielder from Georgia. I'm glad he went early. I had him right around the top 100 of my board, I think within the top 100. Other outlets had him closer to 200, goes at 109. That's a big win. Jackson Willits is a dude. You hear a lot about his character. Brother of Eli Willits, played a really good shortstop for Oklahoma. This is a guy who fits what the Angels want in their draft picks. Jake Long out of Utah is a name I had circled here as a possible breakout candidate. Cameron Jackson out of Georgia, tons of raw tools. Assumed he would honor his Oklahoma commitment, might get signed here. That's a fun shot down the board that scouts like. As far as the Angels draft class goes, I'm going to give them a B+. Yeah, I'm going to give them a B+. I really like Grindlinger. Advincula, Grahovac, I'm cool on. Willits, same. Lujo, I think, is good value there. They just didn't wow me, other than the Grindlinger pick is just so unexpected. Other than that, they didn't get anyone I absolutely loved down the board, other than maybe Rylan Lujo in the fourth. But still really good draft for the Angels. Guys, Los Angeles Dodgers did it again. Bo Lawrence at 40. This is a guy who I thought could have gone maybe in the top 10. Sure as heck didn't think he'd go all the way down to 40. They're likely not going to have to overpay him either because they're the Dodgers. Bo Lawrence. Going to be a really interesting third base prospect with a ton of power. The Dodgers did a great job selecting Miles Gostola here. Miles is a grade A human being. I actually know him personally, and he did a great job at Oregon this year, stepping into a starting role after pitching at Gonzaga for a couple of years. Really fun stuff from the left side. Lower velocity, but he's got some movement, really uncomfortable at bat. They paired him up with his Oregon teammate Devin Bell, the closer for Oregon this year. Really good Oregon team that had a ton of players drafted this year. Devin Bell, keep an eye on him. Cody New out of Cal Baptist. That was a buzzy name from the left side. all year long. Gavin Van Kempen, one of the best senior pitchers in the whole class outside of maybe Shane Tadeo and Ruger Rojas, most likely. I think Gavin Van Kempen was right after them. Great to see him in the 12th. I thought he would have gone a lot earlier than that. Down the board, Zach Bates is someone I've been put on to recently. Illinois pitcher. We'll have to see on him. The Dodgers didn't have a whole lot of money to play with, but man, they maximized it. Whether it's the Oregon guys, Van Kempen down the board. Cody New is a guy I haven't talked about, really good pitcher out of Cal Baptist. And the Dodgers just did a really good job extracting value. They didn't have a big bonus pool. They got some guys I really like, and Gostola, Bell, New, Van Kempen. And then they got Bo Lawrence when he shouldn't have been there. So this is just a really impressive draft. You have to give it an A. It's not the best draft class, even taking bonus pool into account, but it's an A. Moving on to the Miami Marlins, who had Jacob Lombard fall into their lap. As you can see, ranked number 5 by Pipeline. Not quite that high for me, but I thought he'd go in the top 10 or at least around it. And Lombard falls all the way here to 14. Major hit tool concerns with Jacob Lombard. We saw all draft the teams were prioritizing safe hit tools, especially early for big money. Jacob Lombard is not that. The Marlins should not break the bank on Jacob Lombard here, and we're able to get some really fun players down the board. So getting one of the best talents, one of the highest ceilings in the draft at 14 is a really, really impressive thing. Ethan Kleinschmidt from the left side at Oregon State, funky delivery, going to be a really good pro. Worst case, you have a wipeout reliever in Kleinschmidt. Got to add a little bit of velocity there. Camden Cogiel from Arkansas, I thought was a pretty good pick here. I don't think you're going to save any money on him. Probably going to play second base, but we'll see. Cogiel has a pretty good bat. Ryan Peterson, the pitcher from Sam Houston State, also needs to be mentioned here. One of the best mid-major arms in the country. Trey Beard, but I skipped over, actually, Wesley Roberson, one of my favorite prep players in this class. He was within my top 100 rankings, not even ranked on MLB Pipeline. He goes right around where I think he should go. Fun switch-hitting outfielder with an edge to him. Rintaro Sasaki, the first baseman from Stanford, who was drafted in the first round of the NPB last season, I believe. So now he has a choice. Either take your MLB money, which is going to be probably right around slot at $240,000, or go be a first-round pick in the MPB. This is a nice swing on one of the better power hitters in college baseball this year. He hasn't fully tapped into his potential at Stanford. Maybe the Marlins can open that up. Fabio Bundy is a really fun from Switzerland, as you can see here. He's a pitcher. He's super old, but just oozing with talent, being an international guy. So we'll see what happens there. Down the board, not in love with too many of these names. I like Porter Berzema from Georgia Tech, good pitcher for one of the best teams in college baseball this year. However, most of the value comes at the top here. I'm going to give the Miami Marlins an A-. Getting Jacob Lombard where you got him is super impressive. Kleinschmidt's a good pick. I think Peterson, Kozel, good picks. I really like Roberson. Down the board, I think they could have done more. Obviously, a little bit hamstrung by taking so much good talent right around slot early in the draft. But overall, really good picks from Miami Marlins. And now we have the Milwaukee Brewers here. First pick, they went off script. As always, Trey Ebel. This is a guy who had helium into the top 50 picks, right around 50 on my personal board. Pipeline had him closer to 100. I think that this is a defensible pick here, and you save a little bit of money. You reunite Trey Ebel with his brother, who was the 32nd pick in last year's draft. Sawyer Strasnyder falls all the way to 66. This is a guy who we thought would go in the top 30. We'd heard that he was falling down boards, maybe to like 39 or 40. He falls all the way to 66. Probably gets a little bit over slot here, but not as much as people might think. Kyle Jones, fun outfielder from Florida. A lot of teams were reportedly in on Kyle Jones. So interesting to see the Brewers pick him up at 102. Aiden Knack from Clemson, good pitcher, proven himself. There isn't a whole lot of upside there, in my opinion. Kellen Tom is a first base prep hitter that I've heard about quite a bit. Down the board, the Brewers are going to do Brewers things. Not a whole lot of guys here that I'm like very, very familiar with. Carson Sabathia is a nice nod to CC Sabathia, his son. We'll see about him. Not sold that this is anything more than just a nice bloodline pick. Overall, the Brewers, they're one of the hardest teams to grade every year because they always pick such great players, but the value on the boards doesn't always line up. Interesting to see them get Strasnyder, though. I think for the Brewers, I'm going to give them a B-. This is too early for Trey Ebel. Strasnyder's good value here, but this is probably around where he should have been picked anyways based on talent. I like Kyle Jones a little bit. And then after that, like there's not a whole lot of depth in this class, in my opinion. But they took a bunch of prep guys. They're going to be fine. The Brewers are always fine. So B minus, but it'll be like an A plus in 4 years. Moving on to the Twins here, who got Von Lackey. Out of the big three, Von Lackey, I think, was my favorite. I had him at 1 on my last big board, so obviously incredible value here. They reached a little bit on Carson Tinney, but this is a fine landing spot for the Texas catcher, who I think has another level that he can get to in pro ball. Brett Renfroe, good pitcher for Virginia Tech. I just think they reached maybe a little bit on him as well. Ethan Walksman is a popular name, prep pitcher from Colorado. Throws really hard, 6'5". We'll see what happens there. Tommy Laporte out of TCU, this is a guy who threw 100. Not a great pitching prospect, in my opinion. It's kind of a bad shape on almost everything. A lot of effort in the delivery. He's kind of a psychopath, so it's cool, but I'm just not sold that he's a starter. Steele Murdoch out of UC San Diego, fantastic pick here, right around 139. That's where I had him as well. Ethan Lay out of Sacramento State is a guy that we'd written up on Overslot in the past. Max Bales from Santa Clara. Bales? I'm pretty sure it's Bales from Santa Clara. Really good pitcher for the mid-major team down in California. Thomas Burns from Texas. Why not take a shot on the talent? No doubt. Going down the board a little bit, Isaiah Lane, really good pitcher, really good shortstop from Hope International University and NAI program. He was originally on San Diego. I believe he was kicked off the team. Good talent, though. Not in love with any of these picks. Michael Barnett is a cool pick. UCLA, obviously, a lot of us have seen him play on TV. Not sure that he's a great pro prospect, though. So for the Twins, this is tough because I really like Von Lackey. Other than that, not in love with the class. I'm going to give him a B. It would be a B minus if it wasn't Von Lackey. If they didn't get my favorite player in the draft, I don't think that this is a B. So I'm going to give them a solid B. They're not the worst, not the best. And here we have the New York Mets, who did some really interesting things on draft day. Obviously, they had a very limited bonus pool, but they went out and spent a ton of money on Carson Wiggins. This guy's going to cost the full slot value. I know that he's ranked 88 here. He had first round steam heading into the draft, went at 27, right around where people thought he would go. This is a guy coming off injury that could make a real impact early on for the Mets. We'll see how they play his development, though. And then Aiden Robbins. Aiden Robbins isn't the cheapest player either. Ranked here by Pipeline at 29. That's a little earlier than I would have had him. I had him closer to 50, but picked at 92. Surprised he was still there. Good right-handed outfielder. Shane Sadeo is going to save them some money. The fourth-year senior was draft eligible last year, went back to school, did not have a great year, just waiting for this guy to put it together. Big Sadeo fan. Luke McNeely could have saved them a little bit of money. I doubt it, though. Really fun pitcher from Florida, high-octane stuff. And then you go down the board, and they did not spend a whole lot of money here. Ryan Taman's probably going to come in underslot from Cal Poly. Landon Koenig from Mississippi, Ole Miss. He's actually a very good pitcher at Ole Miss this year. Big fan of that pick. Kuhio Loy, that's just a shot on the athlete, the power, the player. Not convinced he's going to be able to hit in pro ball, but you never know. Not super big on any of these guys further down the board. Jacob Madrid, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to afford him. We'll see. Taking a player in the 13th means you think you're going to sign him, but I don't know where this money's coming from. Unless, like most of these guys in the 6 to 10 range took pretty big discounts, I kind of would be surprised if they got Jacob Madrid, but taking him here signals that they're going to be able to get him. We'll see what that price tag comes in at. But overall, I mean, the Mets with really limited resources did a lot of good work. I'm going to give them an A minus. New York Yankees here had one of the best pitchers in the draft, fall them at 35. Hunter Dietz was in contention for the number 2 pitcher in this class, in my opinion. Falls all the way to 35. Yankees are going to love him. He's a total Yankees pitcher. Big body, has a lot left on the table. Sean Duncan, injured currently, not going to pitch in 2027. Really good pitcher from the Pacific Northwest in British Columbia. This was a guy who I thought would have gone top 30 before the injury. He slides a little bit, but the New York Yankees really liked him. I was surprised. I thought they might have taken him at 35. Cool to see him there at 63 still. Brendan Brock, really good catcher from Oklahoma. That's fine. After that, not sold on a whole lot of these picks. Just being honest here, Diego Castellanos is a good outfielder from St. Mary's, sells out for contacts. The swing is very divisive. Not sure if he'll play in pro ball or not, but it's interesting. Anthony Potestio from UC San Diego is a guy who had a lot of helium early in the year, did not perform well enough this year, so that's a good shot down the board. Michael Harpster from East Tennessee State, also a good pitcher, good shot. Bear Harrison, not that excited about. Paul Gutierrez-Contreras, this is a money-saving pick here. Not that excited about it. I'm not so sure that the Yankees extracted enough value up and down this class to get higher than like a B plus. I really like Hunter Dietz and Sean Duncan, which is why they're a B plus. There's not enough depth here to probably warrant a B plus, but those two players, man, where they got them, really impressive. And here come the Philadelphia Phillies, who took Tyler Spangler at 36. We weren't sure if Spangler was even going to get drafted. We thought there was a chance that he might go to school at Stanford. He ends up getting drafted. He didn't play this spring. Lots of question marks about Spangler throughout this whole draft process. I had him much lower on boards, lower than 50, just because I was scared by the profile and what was going on there. So we'll see. What you're going to see is that this whole draft class kind of relies on Tyler Spangler to a point. They spent a lot of money here. Caden Bogenpol, good player from Missouri State. It's fine. Ruger Rojas, senior pitcher, going to save some money there. Devin Sheeran, slot, or maybe save a little bit of money. It's a fun shot. Don't get me wrong. Jackson Jelkin, he's super old. You're going to save a bunch of money there. Will Gasparino, you had to give extra money, so I guess you're relying on Tyler Spangler and Will Gasparino for most of this draft class. Everywhere else, you had to go cheap because you got those two guys. One guy I'll highlight, Reese Moroney out of Rhode Island. Really fun shortstop there. Small school shortstop. Keep an eye on him. Down the board, Matt Quintanar, the catcher from Texas Tech, definitely has some upside. Good player this year in college. We'll see what happens there. Christian Coppola is interesting from St. Joseph. Drew Titsworth from Clemson, fine pitcher. Here's the problem: is you're putting all of your money on Tyler Spangler and a little bit of it on Will Gasparino and Caden Bogenpol. Not convinced any of those three guys are going to be effective in pro ball. I think this is my least favorite drafts of maybe all. Between this and Cleveland, I put them at a B minus. This could be a C plus. It could be even worse. If Tyler Spangler doesn't pan out, this draft class is going to probably be in shambles. So we'll see Phillies, but a B minus for now. And now we get to the Pittsburgh Pirates, who want to win now. They traded their comp pick to the White Sox so they could get Landon Tome, and in return got some big league ready pieces. And they took some guys who are going to be ready to play pretty soon. Derek Curiel is a guy who's going to fly to the majors. One of the best contact hit tools in all of college baseball this year. He can play center field. This is a guy who's going to be fast reinforcements for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Chris Rembert, similar, right? Really good hit tool. Jason Nicaro is a guy who I really liked early in the year, started cooling off on as the year progressed, but still a really good pitcher for that North Carolina team. Aiden Ruiz had been linked to the Pirates all draft long. They got him, in fact, at 44, one of the best prep shortstop defenders, not named Rocco Maniscalco, in the class. Down the board, Trey Phelps is a fun shot. The third baseman from Georgia. Spencer Evans, the prepster from Florida, good lefty arm there. Grant Govil was interesting as well out of USC. I'll be interested to see if they can even afford Grant Govil. Malachi Washington, this is a emergency pick. He is going to LSU. As far as the Pittsburgh board goes, it's not flashy. It's not sexy. Aiden Ruiz is cool. Really good defender. He's a fun player to watch. Derek Curiel, cool. I didn't have him as high as 5. Like 5's pretty high for Derek Curiel, but I understand why they did this. They want to win soon. They picked more for need than other teams did. I think that's completely fine. With that being said, though, I'm just going to give them a B, kind of middle of the pack. Here we have the San Diego Padres, who are doing San Diego Padres things. As always, Coleman Borthwick at 21, kind of unexpected, kind of expected because it's the Padres. This is a guy who I had right around 50. He's a really big right-handed pitcher, throws hard. I think this stuff is okay. It's just the prep right-handed pitcher. I'm not sold on the projection as much as maybe others are. I just don't love it at 21. Elliot Lasaze is, I believe, how you pronounce it. One of the better contact bats in this class. I did have him within the top 80, so this pick lines up with how I feel about Elliot. Really good shortstop from Canada. We'll see how the swing progresses in pro ball, but he does one thing really well, and that's hit the baseball. Ryan Lynch is the fun sinker baller from North Carolina. He's on the younger side, draft eligible sophomore, and pitched in some big games for NC this year. Great value at 97, in my opinion. He could have gone a little bit earlier. Going down the board a little bit, Joe Tiroli, I think, is a fun pick. Good second baseman from Virginia, has some good data on him. Further down the board, Ty Brackbill out of High Point. One of the better sliders from this mid-major crop of arms. This is a guy I wrote up at Overslot earlier this year. He's going to be able to slide right into the bullpen and be pretty effective from day one. With that slider, Albert Robles was one of the best relievers in college baseball this year. This guy collects whiff at a ridiculous rate from a really over-the-top Ryan Stanek type of look. This is a guy I thought should have gone much earlier as a clear future big league reliever. We'll see what happens. I don't think the Padres signed Denton Lord. They don't have the money for it, but this is a good backup option, I suppose. Mark Quattrani from Notre Dame, fun catcher. Could have seen him going a bit earlier. Could have showed better this year. Overall, the Padres, I don't love what they did at the top of the class. They're going to give Elliott a lot of money there. Ryan Lynch is a good pitch. Ryan Lynch is a good pick. Other than that, I'm just not sold on especially like these middle rounds. Like I just don't. I'm not the biggest Alex Conover guy. Like Javi Levy, it was fun from George Washington, a small conference performer. For the Padres, though, I'm going to give them a B minus. I think they're close to a B, but B minus for now. Just not a big fan of this first pick. San Francisco Giants did a pretty good job this year after having kind of a poor draft class last year, in my opinion. Jackson Flora at 4. Awesome. You got the best pitcher in the draft. Good work. He's going to be a future starter, has ace upside. He's going to be really, really good. Carson Bowman, really good left-handed pitcher. Might have been the best prep pitcher in the class between him and Gio Rojas. Got rave reviews from scouts all across the MLB Draft Combine and other places. This is great discount at 29. Adam is a top 20 player in this draft class. Caden Wachter is also going to be a little bit expensive, similar to Bowman at 55, but this is one of the better prep pitchers in the class, similar to Caden McCarthy and Jensen Hirschhorn. All those guys are in that tier. Tons of upside. Peyton Bonds is a fun pick for Giants fans. Not convinced that he's going to cut it in pro ball, but at 90, I can understand the shot. This is a guy who's a really interesting statistical profile. Carlos Martinez, really fun underslot option from Hofstra. Really good pitcher. Surprised he went this high, but really liked him. Josiah Kemp is another Bloodlines pick. As we go down the board, Mikey Bell, Gonzaga, he's committed to Georgia as a 5th year. We will see what happens there. I just don't think that the San Francisco Giants got a ton of value down the board. Like, I can understand people might like Colin Fishers or like Cody Mancini or Mike Mancini, for example. I'm not sold on any of those guys. I like Bo Bryans quite a bit, actually, the pitcher from Jacksonville State. I just don't think that they did a great job down the board. I think the first 3 picks are awesome. After that, like, they spent a lot of money on those first 3 picks. It's cool. 3 great pitchers. They should be happy. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure where they go from here. So for the Giants, I'm going to give them a B+. Somewhere in the middle, slightly better than average because you got 2 awesome prep pitchers and you got the best pitcher in the class, but it's not good enough for like an A, in my opinion. There's just not enough value down the board. Now to the Seattle Mariners. I have a hard time with this draft class. I'm not the biggest Ace Reese guy. I had him ranked outside of the top 25, closer to 30 or 35 in my personal rankings. I don't think he's going to be a third baseman. I know they announced him as a third baseman. I don't think that's the case. I think he's probably going to be playing left field, maybe first base. And I think there's just real whiff concerns here. You look at a guy like Andrew Fisher, who had average whiff rates in college or whatever, and now he's striking out 33% of the time in the minor leagues while hitting a bunch of home runs, granted. Ace Reese had worse college metrics than Andrew Fisher playing in the SEC. I'm just not so sure that Ace Reese is going to make enough contact to fully get to the power. Really solid chances of 20-plus home run guy. I just don't know how valuable he's actually going to be. So I'm just down on that pick. Jake Brown's a fantastic selection, 65. Thought he could have gone 20 picks earlier. Nathan Taylor and Trevor Lucas are reaches early. And it just seems like the Mariners paid all of these guys like a lot of money that maybe shouldn't have got this much money. Like Nathan Taylor is probably going to come in closer to slot. I'm just not sure he's that kind of guy. Henry Ford, it's fine. It's kind of a safe-ish profile. I'm just not sure what the upside is there. I like Eric from Stanford, good second baseman. Wyatt Queen from Oregon State is one of my favorite players in this class. Former JUCO guy here in the Pacific Northwest. Really good stuff. Had a huge K rate this year, over 40%. One of the best relievers in college baseball. This is a guy who could start in the Mariners system right away. Down the board a little bit, Dominic Santorelli is just an insurance pick. Michael Petit or Pettit, I don't actually know how you pronounce it, but I wrote an article on him earlier this year. Really good underlying stats from VCU. I think this is a really fun pick in the 19th round. One of my guys in this class. So between that and White Queen, I can't absolutely tank this draft, but I just don't agree with a lot of these early picks. These are just guys that I had much, much lower on my board. Obviously, you got to trust the Seattle Mariners scouting department, but for now, I'm going to give them a B minus, kind of toward the bottom of this list. St. Louis Cardinals here. All right, Trevor Condon at 13. I thought he should have gone on the top 10. Tegan Coons at 32. I think that's probably right around where I'd have him, maybe a little earlier. Rocco Maniscalco should have gone in the top 50. I thought he could have gone in the first round. Goes at 50. Andrew Williamson at 68. Great value there. I think that's right around perfect. Dawson Montesa as an underslot option. Great underslot option, in my opinion. He has all the traits you look for from a back-end starter, and you get him at 72 for a big discount. Caden Ferraro has some of the best underlying data in the class. The only problem is he's a DH. That's fine. This is really good value for him, too. I had him borderline top 50, but he can't play defense. D. Kennedy at 114. He could have gone 2 rounds earlier than this. D. Kennedy, really fun riser from Kansas State this year. Cal Randall, the best fastball in college baseball, goes at 146. This is right around where I had him. Worst case, this is a high-level reliever. If he can start, this could get really fun really fast. Owen Henney is a D2 transfer, was committed to West Virginia, gets bought out here early. Probably most guys didn't expect him to be a draft guy, but really good underlying data on Owen Henney. He's playing in the draft league right now. Derek Schaefer is going to be a really good reliever. Nick Baum throws 100. Drew Horn throws into the mid to upper 90s with a really good slider and changeup combination. You just keep going down this board, and they keep getting really good players. I don't think Freshcorn's going to sign. Colin Ritchie definitely isn't going to sign. Surprised he didn't go earlier. But you just look at this board. I would have drafted all of these guys earlier. Even the guys that, like, I don't know a whole lot of. Like Luke Harrison, really good player. Like I didn't know a whole lot about Jaden Lobliner before this. I'd heard the name, didn't know what was going on. He's like a defensive wizard behind the plate. The St. Louis Cardinals picked up value with every single pick, and I don't know how they did it, and it's so impressive. This is the best draft. This is the best draft. This is an A-plus draft from the St. Louis Cardinals. All right, Tampa Bay here. Grady Emerson, maybe the best player in the draft, falls to 2. They're ecstatic about that, I can tell you. Some Bobby Witt comps, maybe. Grady Emerson's going to be fantastic. Big leaguer, one of the better hit tools we've seen from a prep player in recent years. Taj Marchand going here at 33, perfect spot. Heard this mocked a lot. Expected it to be him or Prosek there. Ben Blair should have gone about 20 picks higher than this. This is a guy who's going to be able to start right away with a really fun arsenal with good pitch shapes. Down the board a little bit, I'm not a huge Kramkowski guy. Fine value at 145. That's whatever. Kyle Johnson at 174, big fan of as well. It's right around where he should have been picked. Griffin Long, same thing. I think that they just got value up and down the board. Tate McKee's a guy from Georgia Tech. A lot of people liked him. I liked him too. Cole Stokes from Florida State, really live arm there. Alex Philpott from South Carolina, live arm. As you can see, the Rays took about 11 pitchers in a row to end this thing. David Horn Jr. might be my favorite out of all of them. Had great results at Middle Tennessee State this year. Teammates with Drew Horn, who we just talked about with the Cardinals. David Horn Jr. is a sleeper in the Rays system right away. They know how to draft. They know what they're doing. They got value up and down this thing. I'm going to give them a solid A. This is the second or third best draft class in the whole draft. The Texas Rangers took some shots, man, and you can't blame them, but this is scary. Gio Rojas has concerns of his own. He's a prep pitcher. Maybe some health concerns there. It's scary. It's just a scary pick, right? Anytime you take a prep pitcher. Connor Como, that's going to cost a lot of money. I don't know if he's the guy I'd be spending that much money on compared to some of these other guys who maybe didn't get drafted or went later. Brody Bamilla is rumored to get over $3 million. I think that's insane. This is a guy who's going to go under the knife for a second time. So we're going on his third UCL. He might never be effective again. Like, that's just something that happens. You can only get surgery so many times. Like, it doesn't always work. I would know. I got multiple elbow surgeries. Paying him first round money is insane. And then you look down the board, because they paid all these guys so much money, the Rangers didn't take an interesting player for the rest of the draft. It was literally all like the cheapest possible options from here on out. They took 3 players in Hudson Calhoun, who was one of my favorite prospects in this draft, funny enough. Took him at 117. They'll save a bunch of money there. He was a reliever last year. I think he can start in pro ball, but like, it's so risky. There's so much risk with your first 4 picks. Like, I don't think that's the right way to draft. Granted, if one of them hits, I guess like it kind of makes it worth it. If 2 of them hits, then they're cooking with gas. But I don't like any of these players down the board. Some of them I don't even know, to be fair. That's the honest truth. Like Caden Aoki and Colby Branch, cool. It doesn't move me. Like, we're taking Aiden Brainard in the 6th round. Like, I know you have to save money, but you're putting so much stock in a guy who's going on his third UCL, and I just think that's a bad way to draft. I think this is the worst draft, maybe the worst draft. I'm not sold it's the worst. I'm going to give them a B minus. The Toronto Blue Jays did some interesting stuff, working with really limited picks. As you can see, only a first, third, and a fourth, and their first was at 39. Cole Carlon falls all the way to 39. This is a guy who could have gone in the top 30. Great value here. Really good Arizona State pitcher who proved he could start this year. Really good slider as well. Ryan Cooney, going to save a little bit of money here, most likely. Third-year shortstop from Oregon, just been super consistent, can do a little bit of everything. Will Brick was a guy who we thought would be a first-round pick for a long time. The bat didn't really come around this year. He's still super young. He reclassed up. They're going to have to pay a lot of money at 131 to get him away from Vanderbilt, but this could be the best prep pitcher or best prep catcher in the whole class. So really interesting shots there. Down the board, I like a couple of players the Blue Jays got. I'm not in love with any of it. Dean West at UCLA, proven contributor in that lineup, top of the order type of guy. Jake Bennett out of DBU is one of my guys in this class, really good catcher. Down the board a little bit more, Landon Waters out of Mississippi, really good pitcher there, some upside, good senior pick. Jake McCoy is an insurance pick, so unlikely that he ends up going, but look out for him next year. Overall, the Blue Jays had really limited funds and just they were operating with a limited budget here, right? To get these 3 guys and a couple of guys down the board that I'm cool with, I think is awesome. I think that's a B plus. Like, they did better than expected, I suppose. And now the final team, going to the Washington Nationals here. Chris Copian falls to 11, right around where we thought he would go after some shaky medicals. He's probably going to be a second or third baseman at the next level, but he's going to hit. This guy is one of the best hitters in the draft. Him and Logan Hughes were 2 guys who are just like, I feel like they're kind of can't miss prospects with the bat. Chase Brunson, really good hitter with TCU, could have gone, honestly, 20 picks earlier than this. Luke Williams is a really fun pickup at 78. It's kind of the upside that Washington looks for in a lot of these drafts. Cooper Harris, really similar. These 2 picks right here, pure upside. Luke Williams and Cooper Harris. Fun to take shots like that. Not a huge Daniel Cuvée guy. Neither am I a Gage Peterson guy. Cashel Duggar is interesting from UCLA, the catcher there. Just not sure if he has anything defining that's going to carry him to anything more than a big league backup. Matthew Dallas out of Wake Forest, good left-hander. And then Avery Ortiz and Jack Brooks down here. I like both of those picks. And then Anson Siebert from Johnson County, one of the best JUCOs in the country. You always need to take a second look at that, especially when he's a 6'9" pitcher. Overall, I think that the Washington Nationals did a pretty good job. I don't think it was next level. Hakopian's safe, Brunson's safe. Williams and Harris are 2 good upside picks. I really like the Luke Williams pick. After that, I'm not so sure. I'm going to go B for the Washington Nationals. I think it was pretty good. I think middle of the pack is right around where they belong. All right, so here we are. Here's a little tier maker. This is what we've got. I think the Cardinals had the best draft, and I only want to put one team at A+. If I were to put another, I think I'd go the Rays before the White Sox, but that's a tough one. Rounding out the A tier is the Oakland Athletics and the Houston Astros. Both just took really good, safe players. They took what fell to them. They took their guys. It was just really good, like, draft maneuvering. They didn't panic ever. Detroit Tigers had a really good time despite maybe some limited bonus options. And Dodgers had so much limits on their bonus, but they get Bo Lawrence and crew. Miami did a really fun job with Jacob Lombard falling and some other picks later on. Wesley Roberson, keep an eye on him. Cubs got Caden Sorrell late. I think the Cubs did a really good job. Same with Cincinnati Reds. I think those 2 teams kind of remind me of each other. Just players I really liked later than I thought that they would go. Colorado Rockies did a really good job this year, finding some players that are tailored to cores, a couple sinker ballers in there. It's really fun. We'll see what Redmond does. I'm interested to see how they develop him. Kansas City Royals, despite the Zion Rose conundrum at pick 6, they got some really good pitchers, man. They got 2 really, really good prep pitchers in there, and then Maxiel too. I like what they're doing. New York Mets, despite limited funds, got some really high upside swings as well. Atlanta Braves went underslot early and then got two awesome prep pitchers. I just love the balance of all these classes, and that's why they're all up here. Really balanced. They took their shots where they needed to. They didn't take too many shots. They weren't too safe. It's just really, really good drafting, in my opinion. Balancing ceiling and floor really well. It's like the Giants, like similar, but three pitchers in a row. Definitely a little scary there at the top, especially with the prep guys. But I think they took good players. Like this is a very good B plus. Right? There's a reason that there aren't C pluses or C minuses here because these teams know what they're doing. You know, Angels deviated from strategy a little bit, but Grindlinger is going to be awesome. Yankees got two phenomenal pitchers at the top of the draft. Toronto Blue Jays did a really good job with their first three picks and picked up some interesting guys late. Arizona Diamondbacks, I don't want to say it's boring. Helfrich's a good pick. Other than that, I'm just not over the moon with any of their selections. Baltimore Orioles get EJ Booth Jr. and then take some other players down the board, but EJ Booth is really the defining piece of this team, along with Ty Head. Those are two really good picks. Other than that, not a whole lot going on. Minnesota Twins get Von Lackey, and then they reached on some guys, in my opinion. Pittsburgh Pirates, they are trying to compete now. That's fine. I think that's fine, but you're not going to be a top draft when you're trying to get guys to rush the majors. With your first pick, like Derek Curiel, I didn't think he was the fifth best player in the draft. But still, they did a good job drafting for what they wanted to do. Washington Nationals, they could be higher than this. Washington Nationals might be a B plus team, honestly. For now, I just rest them in B. I think they did a good job balancing upside and floor. Just not like my favorite players in the class. Milwaukee, it's a Milwaukee draft. Same with San Diego. Both of those teams, they're going to do a good job drafting. They probably took players down the board that are going to be friggin' awesome. Just like on paper, it doesn't look awesome. Texas Rangers had a really scary draft with the two prep pitchers and Connor Como, and then nothing else after that. Hudson Calhoun's a beast, though. Hopefully he figures it out as a starter. Seattle Mariners took Ace Reese, who's just not my guy. After Jake Brown, just not very moved by almost any of their selections other than maybe Wyatt Queen. Boston Red Sox, I just thought the maneuvering of the board was weird. You saved all that money early. You got a really good player in Jake Schaffner. And you spend all those savings on Martin Schillar. That's just not who I'm spending that much money on. It's a really bad swing. It could work. It's going to need a lot of tinkering, though. Yeah. Just go watch the video. Like, it's not a pretty swing. Cleveland Guardians, Liam Peterson, and then not a whole lot else that I'm really a big fan of. And Philadelphia Phillies, you're putting a whole draft class on Tyler Spangler. Not sure he's the guy I trust with the draft class. But, we'll see. This is just one man's opinion. These teams are so much smarter than me, and doing draft grades right now is so dumb. But, make content, I guess. But if you made it this long in the video, thanks so much for watching. Go check out all of our work at overslotbaseball.com. You can find me on Twitter at Rasmussen Base. Go yell at me over there and tell me what you think. And maybe we'll make some more videos in the future. Who knows? But for now, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.